Hi guys, welcome to day 8 of Love Your Stash Challenge with the Creative Design team. I'm Julie. We'll be here all month long, and this week we are featuring embellishments. So I decided to do this pretty cool layout. I had these really nice pictures, so I thought, let's do a funky background. So I decided to bust out my ink oxides and do a watercolor background. I'll be listing all of the names of the colors that I've used down in the description box below. So I'm going to start with these two colors right here. So I'm using the same family of color. So I'm starting with the lightest shade, and then I'm going to follow through with the next darker shade. That way you don't contaminate your ink pads too much. And I'm just putting a generous amount on my all-purpose mat. I'm just going to add a little bit of water here, and I'm going to spritz it all up. And then I'm just going to break up the color. Otherwise, you kind of get like a square image, and I want it to be more watercolor based. So that's why I'm using colors that are similar. I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm just going to press my paper or my cardstock directly on those colors. So that's a pretty good impression, but it's kind of dark. So I'm going to add more ink to my all-purpose mat here, and I'm putting again a generous amount. I'm going to add quite a bit of water this time because I found that first impression was kind of spotty, so I wanted to be more filled in. So I'm adding a lot of water, and I'm gently pressing on the colors, and you can see here that it's much more, it fills out the space more, it's a little bit more runnier. So what I like about the Oxide inks is that you can control the intensity that you get on your paper. I'm going to just hit it here with my heat tool, and I'm going to add a little bit more. So I'm going to go with the next two sets of colors, and I'm adding again the lightest shade and then the darkest shade. So I kind of got an idea of how it's going to work now. So I added, I guess, a medium amount of water if you want, and I'm going to press down again and pick up some of those beautiful colors. So you've got that same thing here. So I want to have a little bit more. There's a lot of blank spaces, so I want to fill in those spaces. I'm going to add quite a bit of water. I'm going to shake up that ink that's on my all-purpose mat, and I'm going to go pick that up and see, oh, that is so pretty. So it's running here and there, and you could let it dry, but I'm just going to pick some of that up because it is a little bit dark for the rest of the colors, but you can see here that it's not done just in one impression. You kind of have to play with it. So I'm going to keep on going with my colors. I'm going to add some green here and a little bit of that peacock feathers. That is such a pretty color, but it's pretty intense. Like, these Oxide inks are really dark, so you kind of have to play with a few tries. So here I'm going to add a little bit of color, and I seem to be doing that thing over and over again where it's a little bit blotchy. So I add a little bit more water, and then I'm just going to let the water kind of run off the page. So this was kind of really runny for me, so I'm going to try it again. I'm going to add a little bit more green, not too much, and then a little bit more of that peacock feather. That is such a pretty color. I'm going to add some water. You can see that I'm getting pretty inky here, but I don't mind. It was a really cool process to go through. So I'm going to push that right into my cardstock, and I kind of like that. I like that a lot. And just for the video, I kind of blotted some of the colors off, only because you kind of have to let them dry in between. So when you let them dry in between, you can add more colors on top of each other and they don't muddy. So here I'm adding just a few droplets of water. Just wanted to see if it was going to make a difference. It really doesn't show up that well on camera, but it is another thing that you can do. So this is the completed, I guess, rainbow color effect if you want on the base page, and I really like the way that it turned out. So since we're busting our stash, I actually used I don't know if you remember, but Close to My Heart used to carry 12 by 12 watercolor cardstock. It's not just a White Daisy cardstock. The White Daisy cardstock will work, but it's not heavy. Like, it's not a heavy cardstock base. Like, I think you need something that has like 80 or 90 pound weight. I find that when the cardstock is a little bit heavier, the colors kind of stick to it better and it looks really good. So here I'm just heating it up, and I'm heating it up from the front and the back. That way the cardstock doesn't curl as much. So I went into Cricut and I cut this heart out of this 12 by 12 black sheet of cardstock, and I made sure that I was right in the middle because I want to use that negative space and create a 1/4 inch border all around my layout. So that way you kind of use the scrap piece and you have this really pretty heart at the front. I wanted to add a little bit of glam to this layout, so we're going to add a lot of gold accent, but first I'm just going to glue down my top piece. So this piece here was cut down to 11.5 by 11.5, and I'm just going to add it straight on top of that, I guess, scrap piece. I guess I could have used it for something else, but for this project it worked really, really well. So I decided I was going to pull one of these awesome stencil, like these stencils are huge. They're like 12 by 12 and they're perfect for this actual layout that I'm doing here. So I just want to make sure that all the ray of the sun is kind of going a little bit over the heart so I don't have any blank spaces at the edge. I'm going to tack it down, and you don't really have to tack it down, you can just hold it right in the center, but it seemed to work really well for me. So I'm going to go ahead here and add it to the black cardstock, and this is so cool. And you really don't need that much because you're going on black. You can really just kind of push it into the stencil, and I'm picking it up as you can see at the bottom, and I'm just kind of repeating that all the way around. I found that with the black and the solar flare, the gold, you didn't really need a thick layer, and it does kind of spread out quite a bit, so I didn't need all that much, and I was quite happy with how it turned out. So I'm just going to wipe down my tool here with just water and make sure that I close this nice and tight, and let's take a look at this. Isn't that cool? It looks so pretty. I really like the way that it glammed up that black heart. So I'm going to wipe this down very quickly, again just with warm water, and we're going to continue on with this page. So for my embellishments for this page, because this is what we're featuring this week, I decided to use white acrylic hearts. Now they're really pretty as white, but they look awesome when you add stickles to them. So here I'm showing you that I'm adding quite a bit of stickles. This is the gold rod and it matches perfectly with the solar flare. I'm using my tweezers, I'm holding it down, and I'm adding a generous amount of stickles directly on the little heart. Now this is the part that takes a while to dry. So I did those off camera, and I apparently forgot to turn my camera back on when I decided to add a little bit of black splatters all over the page. So I'm using here, just again, out of my stash, I'm using my re-inker, which is black, and I felt that black looked really, really good. I also did off camera a stitch line. I actually pulled out my machine and stitched that all up. So by this time here, everything is nice and dry. I did take about an hour break to make sure that it was all dried up. For my title, I decided to use 3 layers of cardstock, and then I added a generous amount of liquid glass, and it gives that really pretty shimmering look to that title. You can also use clear embossing powder, but since I was already gluing those pieces of cardstock together, I decided to use liquid glass. So I'm adding here a little bit of a border, and you know what? These are 3x4 pictures, and I didn't have the full border and it didn't fit all the way, so I thought I would put one to the left and one to the right, and it ended up working out just fine. So let's start putting this page together. So there are a few steps. the background, of course, with the watercolor, the splattering, and then the stickling on the heart. So the longest part of this layout is giving yourself enough time to let it dry. I would say that based on the filming, this took about an hour, and the stickles that needs to dry on those acrylic hearts, those guys take about 45 minutes. So you definitely, if you want to do this, start with adding the stickles to your acrylic pieces and set them aside, because once you do that, you really can't touch your layout. Ask me how I know that. So here you see that I've added all of the hearts all the way around the exterior of the black heart, and I really like the way that that turned out. It just kind of finished the page and it added quite a bit of glam. Believe it or not, I was having a hard time with the title for this page, so I have to give credit to Katy, who helped me with both the title and the journaling. So the journaling reads, "People see teal, I see tenderness. People see purple, I see strength. People see red, I see warmth. I see all of your colors shine through." So you gotta remember, this is a 16-year-old daughter that hasn't seen the layout yet, so we'll see what she says when she actually sees the layout. So I wanted to say a special thank you to Katy for helping me with the title and the journaling. I wasn't sure where to add the journaling. You know, when you get all caught up onto, where am I going to add this? I don't want to mess up the layout. And I think that right on the left-hand side, like that, on the edge, it looks really, really good. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to come back for day 9, and Katy is going to show you what she has up her sleeve. Have a good day.